Welcome to the Designated Drinker Show, the podcast that's raising the bar on craft cocktails. I am your host, Louise Solis, and with me, as always, is my very, very, very talented friend who can always spice things up, the mixtress, DC Gina.
Hi, Louise.
Hey, lovely.
I have a little pepper on my fingertips. Spice it up. Just rub my eye. Hurts.
You know, I love the fact that the extent you go to for the show, despite you put pepper in your eye.
I mean,
that's called dedication.
I feel like I just got peppers. I'm like, well, okay, great.
All right, so my next line was going to be something about a little more spice, but I don't know if you need that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a different one, though. So do you know that it's recorded that there are about 40 herbs and spices that have been identified throughout the world?
Okay.
Good old Colonel Sanders, well, he used 11 of those herbs and spices in his original recipe.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And another Southern favorite, Dr. Pepper. Well, they use...
My fave.
Is it?
Yes, they use prunes as their base.
It's such a weird drink.
No.
Do you know that? Did you know that they use 23 of 40 of those?
Yes, and one of them is prunes.
Is a prune a spice?
I don't care.
No, it's an ingredient.
It's an ingredient, but it's fucking good.
Such a weird drink.
Delicious.
Okay, I'm not debating it, you know? I mean, to each his own. You are the master
and a little
of all
Grey
things
Goose in there
liquid.
is fine too.
Oh my God. Again, you're the mixtress, DC, the master of all liquids. Who am I to debate you on taste?
Everybody also has some kind of trashy thing that they like, and I like that.
Doritos.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, with those, and then nasty bean dip that you get at the gas station too.
Yeah.
Yeah, disgusting, but I love it.
Yeah.
All right, back to the show. So obviously we don't know all the spices and herbs in these secret recipes, but considering black pepper and cumin are the two top-selling spices in the world, maybe they make the cut. But maybe not the most commonly used herb, which was this kind of confused me when I did the research. The most commonly used herb is coriander, which is also known as cilantro, depending on what part of the plant you use. Yep. Didn't know that till I did this research.
Well, you should like it because you like guacamole and salsa and Indian food. But
yes,
all of that is Coriander City.
Absolutely.
Curries.
But I'm going to bet the oldest spice known to man is probably in
marijuana.
At least one of two of these recipes.
Is that marijuana?
No, it's
okay. Sorry.
Cinnamon.
Oh, yeah, spice trade. That makes sense.
It's the oldest known spice to the world. So obviously, talking all this spice, where I'm leading up to, is that it just goes to prove that diversity indeed is the spice of life.
Oh.
You like that?
I do like that.
And speaking of diversity...
I like better what I'm looking at, though.
There you go. Speaking of diversity brings me to today's designated drinker. He definitely understands the benefit of spicing things up. And, well, he's your friend. He should have. And making things better through diversity. He is Bacardi's trade director of multicultural and LGBTQ plus advocacy. Please welcome Colin Asare. No.
Do it again.
Help me, Colin.
Asare-Appiah.
There you go. And I just said it right. Just so you know, you are one of many guests that I butcher your name. I was so nervous. I just said it right.
That should be literally one of the Instagrams where you literally just do every guest name that you mess up, and it's just like everything's wrong.
John Smith is John Smite. I'm terrible. I'm terrible.
Brilliant.
Hi, Colin.
But we are very honored to have you.
Greetings and salutations.
It seems like you've been very busy during the pandemic and then post-pandemic. We're not post-pandemic yet.
Well,
we're in the end of it.
We hope. It's tail end.
We're tail end.
Yeah. So we know you have a recent book, and we want to get there. But first, please tell our listeners what it means to be that trade director of multicultural and LGBTQ plus advocacy for Bacardi. What does that mean?
That's a really long title, right? I try and shorten it, but it's not possible. But no, I've been in the role for 2.5 years now, and it's a role which I absolutely love. The business is 100% behind the role and the platform, and the idea is that we felt a real need as a business, as in a team, Bacardi, to ensure that everyone was represented. And so we, of course, made the decision to set up a division that focused on multicultural and LGBTQ plus bartenders. Because as you said earlier, diversity is the spice of life. The more people that we can have in the industry that are from varied backgrounds, the more we have the opportunity to really grab from them their experiences and use that in the mix of cocktails. You know, for example, you were talking about 40, there are what, 40 herbs and spices? Only certain demographics use certain spices in their cooking and their everyday culinary skills. But having the opportunity to have a lot more people from more diverse backgrounds allows us in the industry as well, not only to have representation, but then to have different mindsets and different ways of thinking, different ways of working. And representation really matters. That's what we found. And the whole industry is 100% behind it. I remember when I went to Tales of the Cocktail, which is our big industry event, maybe 12 years ago. It was very different to what it looks like now. There was a lack of diversity then, and now there's a lot more diversity. There's a lot more programming in place to ensure that lots of people are represented. In my role as the Bacardi Multicultural and LGBTQ plus ambassador and manager, I ensure that we have all of our programs that we engage with the bar community is also shared amongst the multicultural bar industry and also the LGBTQ plus industry, so that they have a fair crack of the whip. They can get involved in our competitions. They can come to Tales of the Cocktails. They can add all of their spice into all the cocktail culture that we enjoy and that we're continually promoting and we're continually moving forward. And it's definitely something I think is going to be a focus for majority of brands moving forward. Consumers want it. Consumers want to see diversity in their drinks, and we're definitely providing that. And as I mentioned earlier, with representation, all of our team are a representation of the culture that they're from. So we intentionally did that so that we stay true to what we believe in.
You know, I mean, as a consumer, you know, because we all know I'm not from the side of the bar that you and Gina are from, but from a consumer standpoint, for me, the diversity just adds so much, one, to the experience, but it introduces, to your point, another flavor profile and changes cocktails and introduces me to new flavors that I from just wouldn't know about. And as a patron of a bar, I mean, everyone, I can't imagine it not being something we would all want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, think about it. Even in a simple cocktail like a punch, we always sprinkle a little bit of either nutmeg or allspice across the top of the cocktail. I mean, the Caribbean and Grenada in particular gave us the nutmeg that we also know and love. And if it hadn't been for that culture, maybe we would have never had that nutmeg grate on top of our cocktail. Because as you know, Gina, I always, for me, when I'm making something like a punch, I always use there's a rhyming slang, which is, I actually found it in Barbados when I was visiting. And it was always 1 is sweet, 2 is sour, 3 is strong, 4 is weak, and 5 is spice to make things nice. And I've always used that as kind of a building block for all my cocktails ever since I found that rhyming slang, you know? And we've definitely, as I'll say, as a group of Black people, we've definitely added a lot of spice to the cocktail industry over the years.
I think that's something that's, first of all, it's definitely something that needs to be shed more light on the situation of like, you know, where all these things come from. It wasn't some fucking settler that brought it to the U.S. and they made these great bartenders and then they went out from the world. I think that people don't realize that, you know, there was this thing called the spice trade. They came from all of like Africa, South America, you know, the Caribbean, like all the different places. And
Indochina
like,
as well.
Indochina, yeah, obvious, yes, of course. And like, you're right. There's no representation for it. There's like every now and again, there's like an article or something that comes up that makes it into a cocktail book that there's some like from like 1888, like where something showed up. But like, that's fucking bullshit because at the end of the day, everybody deserves to have, you know, they're saying history, right? What history was, is, and what it will be. And I think that it's so wonderful at this time in our careers, right?
Yeah.
That like, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to do this so strong for the well-being of the bartending community. And I think that like one thing that like say like restaurateurs and then bar owners and the young ones that are coming up and also the crisis of hiring right now in the restaurant business, it's because I think some of it has to do with the fact that it wasn't in an inclusive environment. It was, and for me, and I am we all know I'm white, okay? But I am definitely a woman. And it wasn't as easy for me to come in and break into a club that was all male, for sure. And then I can't imagine, and no offense, Colin, being a black female, which is even harder.
Yeah.
So giving a voice to, and Colin's just lovely, has a lovely accent. So immediately he's a better bartender.
I just want to listen to him all day. We just should have podcasts of just him talking.
I'm serious. Like you're giving what your platform, what Bacardi's doing, what you're doing, what you're doing, and and Bacardi's allowing, helping and funding really your voice.
Yeah.
It's very important globally to make this very well known that this is an industry that, one, is inclusive. Two, people want to be around other cultures and multicultural and, every skin tone and all these things. And it's important that the restaurant business remain that. Because if we don't, then what we've done is really screwed it all up, because the one thing a restaurant can be is always creative. What it could always be is use all the ingredients. Well, then all the ingredients also include all the people. And just because and I don't practice it, so it's fine. You can come to any of my places, but I don't think that one person deserves to be in the kitchen and one person deserves to be in the bar and one person deserves to be the door guide. You know what I mean? Yeah. You need to have everybody mixed up based on their talents and drive and willingness to become great. Yep. And also provide the same amount of, mentorship. And I think that's what you're doing, Colin. Like, people that we've spoken to and stuff, like, it's a mentorship. It's bigger than just, talking to people of color and saying, oh, you could be a bartender. Oh, you're a great bartender, or giving them that. It's more of giving them the mentorship to say, be fucking proud of what you're doing. Be bolder about it. Be okay to say, I'm a black bartender. I'm a black mixologist. Whatever. It's okay to just be bigger about it. There's no reason to be quiet. It's like, it's kind of ridiculous, really.
Colin, considering heading this up, and it's it's very, because you said, and I know you don't mean it this way, but what you said is just be this. How do you build those bridges, to your point, Gina, that allow people to be louder or to take pride? I mean, that's the other thing is, often people are like, well, why can't you do better? Why can't you do more? But those opportunities aren't always present, and nor when they are present, it's not of common behavior to take them. So it's not about helping open doors for people. It's helping people understand they can open the door themselves and continue to open doors. It's not that they're incapable, but it's building those bridges that help people, to your point, grow. It's not just do a better job. It's growing as a human.
Yeah, you're right in all of that. I mean, for us, the opportunity for us to show and highlight the breadth of the opportunity in this industry is really amazing. We are lucky, as Jeannie, you mentioned, we're lucky as we have a moment in time here in the industry to do something really different and make real change. There are lots of opportunities for people to get involved in the industry, but as you said, Louise, if they don't know, they don't know. So it's for us to intentionally take all these opportunities to people who have not had the access before. There are lots of reasons why, and I don't know if we've got the time to unpack all of that, that people haven't had the access in the industry before. But we're trying in our small way to make those change. A walk starts with one step. So let's just keep taking the steps.
One step after the other.
One step at a time. But, intentionally, and also with the mindset of being inclusive, and with the mindset also of ensuring that there's no one kind of left behind with our approaches to how we engage with people. We've got to be intentional of how we engage with people as well. And we've got to be able to listen a lot. What we didn't do a lot in the past was we were really bad at listening. Just as an industry.
Not our listeners of the Designated Drinker Show. They listen to every word.
No, but we were really bad as an industry at listening to each other and really, really listening, not just hearing, but listening, and then taking action on what was actually being said. I'm really, really glad that at this moment in time, we are being more inclusive. We're definitely trying as much as we can to just be intentional and just be in a moment with what we do. We have lots of programs as a team that we've reskinned and we've rehoned to ensure that, when we do take it to a multicultural account, it makes sense. Because it's not one hat fits all, whereas it used to be before, and which was one of the problems and one of the barriers of getting into the industry. As Gina, you mentioned earlier, there's a real problem with trying to get staff into the industry at the moment. But there's a myriad of reasons why people don't want to get into the industry. And I'm actually having a conversation, it's called Full Hands In, Full Hands Out on the Tales platform, just about that topic. How do you bring people in? How do you retain them? How do you inspire them? How do you ensure that you have a diverse workforce and a diverse talent pool? And how do you ensure that all of your staff have a myriad of different talents and they're trained as well in your workspace? And I'm having this conversation soon. And I think it's about time we had it, because there's a lot that needs to be done. And I think together we can definitely get the job done, as opposed to trying to do everything individually. So as a panel, we're going to discuss that on the session in a few weeks.
That's amazing. Gina, wouldn't you agree that, in your space, being, you have both experiences being an employee and being an employer. This would be...
I want to go back to being an employee.
But this is a space where you're not just training one direction, you're training both directions.
You're training people too.
Because you're training management, you got to train up so that management does a better job to keep, even though you make access, to keep it open, to keep it so people feel valued and respected. And then teaching down sounds the wrong word, but so that people understand that you want them to be confident. You want them to bring their whole self to the business.
But you also have to understand, here's one thing I always talk about with the restaurant business and everything is, it's okay to move on. People, think that they're, because they work for some major, bar or star tender or whatever you want to call anybody that's,
star tender.
Think
Ooh,
that
I like that.
They're these famous people. And they treat people, some of them treat them very well, some do not. And people are afraid to leave because they're going to be a career wrecking ball, right? And I think that one thing that everyone needs to start to learn how to do is it is okay to take a breath and, want to try something different in the industry, or a new person, or a different place that you want to go, or where you feel valued. And what I always try to tell everybody is when you don't feel valued, it's okay to take that as a self-preservation and go, and or an opportunity comes your way.
Those are universal words.
But when also, it's okay sometimes to say, can you see me? You can say to your employer, do you see what I do? Do you see what I'm doing? Do you understand my value? And it's okay to have those conversations. And I don't have an office, and everyone knows this about me. I have no office. Because my office is bar seat 1 in any location that I'm in. And I listen to what my bartenders, my kitchen, whoever's got to say. They all have my cell phone number. They text me at all kinds of hours of the night, whatever, it doesn't matter. But they're all bigger. And I have some amazing people that went on to have great programs. So that being said,
I think it's time for you to be the star tender.
We're going to do a quick tip on how to make juice out of watermelon, which I think is super fun. So here we go. So you've gotten your cocktail recipe and it says puree. You don't own a blender? Great, no problem. So I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can do your whatever puree. This time we're going to use watermelon. So, something calls for 2 ounces of puree. That's about 5 pieces of watermelon cubed. Super easy, right? So you have the old standby, your muddler, your friend the muddler. And you can give it a nice squish and you're going to get a nice pulpy deliciousness of watermelon, right? And when you have this juice in here, right, watermelon, I call it watermelon water because really it's not a juice. There's no sugar added to it. It is watermelon, straight up water, right? So that's one if they're calling for a puree, right? If they're calling for that, they're doing that and you want to just do a juice, something a little bit more refined, you just take your watermelon and put it in your hand juicer, which you know I'm a huge fan of, and you'll give it a little side tilt. And then this time you're going to have a cleaner version of your juice. So that way you won't get all the seeds and stuff and everything in there, right? Well, if you're going to use this in the drink and you want to make it so it's a very, very clean version of that drink, you can go ahead and get one of these fine mesh strainers, which I totally love. And I'll give you an example of what it does. We'll take a nice clean glass and we'll just, for fun, take the big gloppiness of this, drop it in, and that's going to give you the best version of your water or juice. I mean, I would call it a water that you can get. I mean, look at that color. It's kind of amazing, right? So delicious. So for that tip and hot trick, you're going to go to designateddrinker.show, and you can get all of my other tips and tricks. And you can follow us on Instagram at Designated Drinker. So we'd love to see you there.
This made me thirsty.
Well, you'll have to get to the cocktail in the next episode.
All right. Speaking of, this brings us to the end of part one with Colin Asare-Appiah, Trade Director of Multicultural and LGBTQ Advocacy for Bacardi. And here's something else we haven't even talked about, which means this is all, you got to come back for part two, because he is also the co-author of a recipe book.
Woo, it's called Black Mixcellence.
Mixcellence. See, Gina and I had it two different ways. But anyway, so come back for part two. If you're anything like Gina and I, one round of Colin is never enough. Make sure you go top off that drink and get ready to check out part two, where we continue our boozy banter and celebrate diversity and inclusion, while Gina is going to take a stab at crafting one of Colin's amazing cocktails that'll be found in this soon-to-be-released recipe book. So hurry back. The Designated Drinker Show is produced by Missing Link, a podcast media company that is dedicated to connecting people to intelligent, engaging, and informative content. Also in the Missing Link lineup of podcasts is Rodger That, a podcast dedicated to guiding you through the haze of dementia, led by skilled caregivers Bobbi and Mike Carducci. Now, if you're looking for a whole new way to enjoy the theater, check out Between Acts, an immersive audio theater podcast experience. Each episode takes you on a spellbinding journey through the works of newfound playwrights, from dramas to comedies and everything in between. Find Missing Link's League of Podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. Please don't forget to subscribe, download, and review the shows. Your review helps our shows reach new audiences. To find out more about Missing Link, visit missinglink.company. That's missinglink.company.